We are thankful to have these guys here doing a performance at our store. They're playing a sold-out show tonight, Joe Jackson, and we got them here, so we're very thankful that they could come out. I just want to mention, we got gear for sale. Teddy uses John Page guitars. We got John Page guitars over here. Supro Black Magic amp, the GK bass rig. So we're into selling gear, and we appreciate you supporting us. Also, Teddy has a CD for sale, the Lupustra. So those are for sale for $10. We have a clinic coming up Wednesday, January 5th with Andy Timmons. And we've got other clinics that we're working on in the future here. So we appreciate your support. We're an independent guitar store. And we try to bring these artists in to be inspirational, and they'll learn stuff. So we appreciate your support. So without further ado, give it up for Graham Maby, Teddy Kumpel, Doug Yowell, the Joe Jackson's touring band.
Good afternoon.
I like how you jumped up the stage there, Graham. That was good.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
So energetic.
That's right. Trying to get the blood flowing, you know. So, well, thanks all for coming out today. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
A couple of you I already spoke to. So, like Steve and Karen. So, well, that's about it. Any questions? So on my right, I have the estimable Teddy Kumpel of Port Jefferson, Long Island, a veteran of recording and performing with the likes of, excuse me, I need my reading glasses, Ricky Lee Jones, Feist, Nine Inch Nails, as a background singer. And he has film credits, Anchorman, Talladega Nights, two great films, by the way. And on my left, the fabulous and suntanned Doug Yowell. A veteran of performances and recordings with Suzanne Vega, Duncan Sheik, Christopher Cross, Bonnie Raitt, Elvis Costello, and lots of other people. And then there's me, who maybe some people will know me from my work with Joe Jackson. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. And Marshall Crenshaw, Natalie Merchant. I've also played with, I hope none of you have a heart condition, John Bon Jovi, and Bruce Springsteen, and a bunch of other people. So that's me. All right. So anyway, we're going to learn a lot about Teddy's very, very impressive rig here.
We're going to do a little rig rundown later.
Yeah.
Tell them how, everybody always asks me, I always go out to the merch table after the show and try to sell my merch, and because Joe said, I really like your album cover. Can you go sell your merch out there? I said, all right, yes, Mr. Jackson. So people always come up to me and go, how did you get the gig with Joe? Tell us how you got the gig with Joe, Graham.
So Joe and I were in a kind of like a cover band together in the mid '70s, a long time ago. Maybe some of you weren't even born. So we were doing, like, you know, classic rock and pop hits and stuff like that. But Joe was writing songs and listening to a lot of different things, including people like Steely Dan. So the chords were getting more complicated and interesting. And also, the other thing about Joe, I always tell people, is he's the only person that I knew back then that was actually a legitimate music student. He was going to music school, he was going to the Royal Academy of Music, studying composition arrangements, and the rest of us were just sitting around listening to records and trying to figure it out on our own. So at some point, Joe grew a little disenchanted with the band, and he told me, he said, yeah, I'm gonna do my own thing. I've written some songs. And he said, you know, and you want to be in it? And I said, well, what's it going to be like? And he said, well, I think I'd like the bass to be the lead instrument. And I'm like, okay. And he said, yeah, I'm sick of guitar solos. There's not going to be any guitar solos. So the guitar will just be the rhythm, you know. So you'll be the lead instrument. What do you think? And I'm like, what would anybody say? You know, yeah, great idea. I love it. Yeah, let's do it. So that's what happened. So his concept was to put me kind of front and center.
And that's why you have more solos in the band than me.
Yeah.
As you should. You've earned it. You've paid your dues.
Well, that may be so, yes, yeah. I'm kind of the reluctant soloist to this day, but anyway, unlike Teddy.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'm like itching. So why don't we play a song for them?
Well, one of the first songs, one of the songs that sticks in my mind, I was just telling Steve this story, was how we Joe would, because he was studying arrangement and composition, he always had a pretty clear idea of what everyone was going to do in his songs. So one day we were rehearsing in a Boy Scout hut in our hometown, and he said to the guitar player, all right, I got this song, right? It's key of E, and you're going to play like this. You're going to play this pattern. So what would you think when you heard that? You know, you think it kind of sounds like a
Country, skiffle, something?
Yeah, it's something like that, or like a rhythm and blues kind of thing, or something like that. So then he had the drummer come in, you know, like if you play this part over that guitar part. So it's kind of funky, it's kind of half time. And then he said, okay, and now play this bass line. And you put it all together, and it's something completely different. I always thought that was very interesting how that all those pieces fit together, and together they're something different than when you separate them, you know?
The sum of the parts.
That's right.
Yes, yes, yes.
So.
That song, by the way, when we're playing that song on stage, my hand really starts to hurt. It's like, oh man, that's really like, I don't know why. You have to really pay attention to how your muscles are behaving and relax your hand a lot. It's very, otherwise you can get in trouble. Whatever. Doug, how did you get into Joe's band?
Hi. I want to thank my mom. Joe, I was playing with Suzanne Vega. This is like maybe just after 2001. And Suzanne and Joe are friends. So he came to see us at a gig in Berlin. And I knew that he had played piano on us, a piano solo on Left to Center, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was so surprised to see him backstage. I loved his music. I always wanted to meet him. And a couple years later, or a year later, he came to see us in New York. And I thought, oh, this is so cool. I get to see this guy twice. And then years passed, and I would get this question all the time from drummers. Of all the bass players, they would say, "Did you ever play with Graham Maby?" And I'd say, "No, I never had a chance. I never even met him." And then in 2015, somebody called us to do a record. We played together. And Graham said, "You know, Joe's looking for some New York guys. I think you'd be great." And he called the office, and maybe Joe asked a couple other people. And my name came up, and I was in Australia touring with this artist. And the office called and said, "Joe wants you to come in and play." And I was so thrilled, and the time was going to work out, and I had 5 days to work on the songs. And, you know,
It's a shame I don't know if you can do it, but one of the things that was very impressive when Doug auditioned for Joe was that we did a song from the Night and Day album called Another World, and Doug found a way to play a combination of the drum part, the timbale part, and it was like 3 parts in one, and he found a way to do it. Right. He found a way to do it. That was
the cowbell.
Really, and I mean, if you're coming to the concert, you'll hear him do it.
With the
really
cowbell.
Good. Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying.
Are you interrupting me?
I can't do it without the setup.
Yeah.
But anyway, when Joe asked specifically about this song, this is so off guitar topic, sorry, Teddy. When he asked about this track, he said, "See what you can do," but I interpreted it as, "See if you can get all 3. And I'm sure, Teddy, you've had to go through this. Like you hear all these different things, and you have to try and merge them together, because his music it's so eclectic in all the different styles that he likes. So when you're thinking about that, you think, okay, I want to bring the whole thing. I think that's a unique thing. I think Teddy would agree, and Graham could say from experience. Joe, he gives us a lot of leeway, but he also really sort of lays out as much as he is expecting to get out of us, and it's a challenge. I definitely think it made me a better musician, no doubt about it.
Definitely.
I would say.
Yeah, he has such a clear vision of what he wants, and he presents it to you, but he doesn't know how you're going to do it. So your job is to go, how do I do that? You know, like one time he sent me an email and it said, "What's the highest note on the guitar?" I was like, why? And he then
sounds like something he would do.
Yeah, and I said D, like, you know, and I played it for him and recorded it and sent it to him in an email.
You sent it
Yes.
to him?
I just went like this, like, you know, sent it to him. And he sent back this melody. He's like, "I want you to play this with this as the highest note of the thing." Actually, let's play that for a second. That could be interesting. So it ended up being the solo in the first song we play in the show.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And he not only did he want it to be the highest note on the guitar, but he wanted it to sustain forever. And it goes like this.
Shall we play with you?
That's not going to sustain forever with a clean sound. I'm sorry. Sorry, Joe. It's not going to work that way. So basically, I have a Catalyst fuzz pedal and a what's this thing? A Digitech Freakout and a Digitech Ricochet set to all the way up the octave, and I play it down the octave. Like after the first 2 phrases of that, I push the button again, it turns off the ricochet, so I'm back down the octave. I program that in my Boss ES8. Yeah, thank you very much. But that's the kind of problem-solving things that come up in Joe's band, like that Another World thing, where we have to dissect what he's saying and like go, wait a minute.
You know, the other good example was King of the World. It's just a unique thing, like of all the things he would have asked you to play. Where did you come up with the wah wah?
No, that was his idea. He wanted wah-wah, but he didn't know what he wanted me to play, so I invented all that stuff that I'm playing, but yeah. Anyway, so it's a fun gig because it's really challenging as far as like how to execute his ideas and parts. It's really an interesting situation, yes. And definitely makes you grow musically. Why don't we play Real Men? This one started out, he says to me, I want like a dub delay, and I want the guitar to play the bass part. Dun 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 dun. And I want the bass. He wanted you to play some other higher stuff, right? I don't know what it was. But then he heard me doing the thing, and he goes, "Oh no, that's not right." But then we still kept the dub delay idea. So here's a little of that. Oh. You get the idea.
It's weird. We play these songs every night, but when we're not playing with the piano, it's
Yeah.
like it gets
How does
confusing.
that go again?
I feel like I've never played it before.
One of the other things I had to figure out with Joe is that he's got so many different textures that he wants on the guitar and so many different sounds that I had to figure out how to make a programmable pedal board with the sounds he wants. And using the Boss ES8, so I program everything with that, including MIDI patch changes and everything. And when I got them all done, or I kind of went through the process in rehearsal of creating the patches, and then when it was all done, I was like, well, how am I going to remember all those numbers on stage? That's insane. Like, what I was going to remember? You probably remember your patches on your thing. 32. Right. I think I have way more than that.
But that's interesting, the way you...
Yeah. So what I figured out is that I had my little rehearsal charts on an iPad, right? I was like learning the songs, you know, and about halfway through rehearsal, I was like, oh, I know what I could do. I could make a set list out of the songs and put a MIDI program change in the song. So the tech could make the set list out of the songs, and when I choose the new song, it'll send the MIDI patch change to the board, and the whole thing goes, poof, you're doing the song. So now I just go, between songs I go like this. Next song.
That's great.
Next song. You know? It's pretty cool. I think. I don't know. You know, I'm a dork.
See, I don't have that problem because I don't know if anybody can see my pedal board. Not a problem for me at all.
This is your pedal board, right?
My pedal board.
Yeah. Should we play another song?
Yeah, let's play something. What were we going to play? You want to play Can't Get What You Want?
We could do that or Fabulously.
Oh, yeah, let's do that one.
Yeah.
Let's do that one. So we were going to do...
First chorus,
First chorus,
bridge,
bridge.
and
Yeah,
then
okay.
stop when the piano
this is a
happens.
song off of Joe's new album called Fool, and the name of the song is Fabulously Absolute. That's what it's called, right?
Yes.
And it's a lot of fun to play, and it's going to be a little different because the lead singer's not here, but other than that, I hope you enjoy it.
I think also this song is sort of like Sunday Papers where the guitar plays a thing and then the bass plays a thing back and forth. It's kind of interesting. All right?
Right, exactly.
You're so fabulously absolute. You're so fabulously absolute.
That's it.
And then the boss comes in with his piano and plays little chords there. So when I got, I guess the way I got into Joe's band was my friend Andy Ezrin, who used to play in Joe's band on the Night and Day 2 tour, right? He sent me an email. He forwarded me Joe's email, and Joe's email said, I'm looking for a guitar player that is good with effects and can sing. And Andy forwarded me. I said, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Joe Jackson, all right, yeah, okay. I like him. And then Joe didn't, I guess he's not really, he's kind of a Luddite, I would say.
Yeah, that's
Right? So he didn't BCC all the people he sent the email to, and there was like 30 email addresses. So I wrote like 10 of them that I knew, and I said, hey, I'd like to go for this gig. Can you recommend me? And about like 4 days later, I get an email from Joe that said, oh, I guess I've got to audition you. Like 10 of my friends say you're really good. Yeah, well, that's a mystery, Joe. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, so then he sent me 5 songs to learn and said he wasn't going to be around for like 3 months. So we had to meet up later. And so 3 months later, and I go to his house in New York and bring my whole pedal board because I know he wants that. And we're playing, and I spent about 3 hours with him, and he kept he kept telling me to turn up. And part of the email, the original email, said he wanted somebody who was good at supporting the piano, playing behind the piano. So my philosophy when in the audition was play behind the piano, like really put the piano in the front and support him. And he kept telling me, "Can you turn up? I can't hear you." I was like, "Sure, but I'm trying to support the piano." And he went, "Oh, okay. Huh." And then at the end of the audition, he goes, "So what's all this then?" Points to my pedals, and I gave him like the 20 sound mystery tour, where I just like laid all this weird stuff on him and what the thing can do. And he kind of went, "Oh, wow." I could see his brain kind of churning away, going, "What can I use that for? What can I use that, So, and then we played some jazz. I'm not really great at jazz, but I did my best. It was fun. Yeah. And then a couple days later, he called me up and says, "I guess you're the guy for the band. Thanks for not making me audition anyone else." So, wow. You're welcome. Yeah. Should we play any other Joe songs? We were going to maybe play Find It All You Want. Oh, yeah, let's play that.
Maybe you want to pick it up from the spot instead of the whole.
Let's play like intro, verse, chorus, solo.
Okay. So, but
Blah, 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 verse, chorus, solo.
okay.
You guys must know this song. It's kind of one of his biggest ones. And the original guitar player on this was Vinny Zumo, and the part on the song is brilliant. I don't know who invented the part, but then when it came time to rehearse the song, I said, "Hey man, I kind of learned some of Vinny's stuff, Joe. Do you want me to do that?" He goes, "No, be yourself." Okay. Here we go.
Well, the other thing is, on the record, there's a bass solo, but there's no bass solo.
What?
Thank God.
Sacrilege.
Okay. From the top, right?
something's wrong with my guitar. You guys have a repair guy here? Something's broken. You like that, Doug? Oh, good. So I have a band too. It's called the Lupustra, and I did a residency at Rockwood Music Hall for about 10 years, and had kind of a lot of New York drummers and bass players play with me. It was like a rotating cast and a rotating looping guitar trio. And I worked really hard on getting it to where you could actually do that, because you don't hear a lot of bands like looping with a drummer, unless it's like pre-recorded stuff, right? I mean, improvising loops. So I figured out a way of doing it. I don't have the whole looping rig here because I don't use that with Joe, but basically I used a click track coming out of the looper, sending to the drummer and me, and then sort of built up a song and sang the song and did some crazy stuff with it, and it kind of kept it like really free, like jazzy, bluesy stuff. So that's what you'll hear on that CD over there if you care to listen to it. But we'll play a couple of the tunes, right? And yeah, can we do that? Yeah. Are you enthusiastic, Doug? Let's do Pushy first.
I don't know that one. What's the other one? Actually, this is true. This is true. When Teddy calls you to do his gig, this is a very cool thing. Of course he has the record, but he'll tell you, don't listen to it. So, Teddy, how do you want me to play the tunes? Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out when you get there. And it really is that way. In fact, for today, it was the same thing. Should I listen to anything? No.
Yeah, it's spontaneous composition.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Is
Yeah, so I'm going to take a break. Good seeing you guys.
like I've got some stuff written that I'm going to do, and these guys are going to make up their own stuff that goes along with it. And it could be great, or it could just fall on its face. But if we fall on our face, we're going to do it all together.
Yeah. Not me, I'm out of here.
Watch out, pushy, pushy, push him away. Watch out, pushy, pushy, try another day. Watch out, pushy, pushy, push him away. Watch out, pushy, pushy, what's he gonna say now? Watch out, pushy, pushy, push him away. Watch out, pushy, pushy, try another day. Watch out, pushy, pushy, push him away. Watch out, pushy, pushy, what's he gonna say now? Wants to bust in the line. He's wasting your time. Thinks he's better than the rest. Never put it to the test. Ran his ego out of check. His life's a train wreck. Got a bug up his ass, and he's got no class. Watch out, pushy, pushy, push him away. Watch out, pushy, pushy, try another day. Watch out, pushy, pushy, push him away. Watch out, pushy, pushy, what's he gonna say now? Watch out, pushy, pushy, push him away. Watch out, pushy, pushy, try another day. Watch out, pushy, pushy, push him away. Watch out, pushy, pushy, what's he gonna say now? the room. His bullshit's in full bloom. He's strutting his stuff. Everybody's had enough. When he comes up to you, what's he gonna do? Excuse himself for your mental health.
Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't all improvising on my part, but it definitely was on these guys' part because we haven't done that song together in like three years, right?
But when we play it, it's always exactly like that.
We have to do another gig like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we could get Joe to play.
Tell me when.
Maybe we could get Joe to play piano. Oh yeah. You think he'd do that?
He might.
Really?
Yeah, years ago we did a gig where we backed some artist up. This is like 40 years ago, and Joe came on and played piano, but he wore a mask. I shit you not. Yeah, because everybody knew it was him. That was the funny part. So it wasn't like anyway.
Well, he has those masks from Zuko 103 of himself. This band he plays with in Holland, Zuko 103, they made masks of Joe's face and had little kids wear them in a video. So there's like these little kids running around with Joe Jackson's face.
One of the most terrifying things you'll ever see.
But Joe had one of the masks and he broke it out on the bus once. And that's the only time he let me take a picture of him with the mask on.
Right.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yep.
He's a funny guy. Oh, what? He always says that. Oh, what? It's insider information. What else? Let's play another. You guys want to hear more music or more blabbing? Both? A little of both?
Is it too early for Q&A? Too early for questions?
Do another song and
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So here's another song. It's called Postal Worker. How does it go? It goes like this.
Wake up in the morning, it's another happy day. Staring at the mirror, thinking how to get away. Pressure drives me so damn crazy. Might be better pushing daisies if I can't try to push the pain away. I feel like a postal worker. Wanna love everyone I see. I feel like a postal worker. Please help get close to me. Locked me in a closet when I was a little kid. Cut off all my hair and then they made me eat a squid. Got no method to my madness. Mommy says I'm such a sad ass. Says it's time that I was put away. I feel like a postal worker. Wanna love everyone I see. I feel like a postal worker. Please help get close to me.
Far out, dude. Yeah,
So that song's called Postal Worker, right?
it is.
So it's supposed to be about somebody losing their
Yeah.
marbles
Yeah,
in the mail.
in the mail. Yes, losing their marbles in the mail. Exactly. And then there was a dead spot in the clinic. Everybody was bemused. Discomfort. Well, here we all are then.
It's a good time to pop a Xanax, right?
Wow. Yeah, you can do that. So I guess we've come to the question answered portion of the show here.
Right. This is where Doug and Teddy and I ask each other questions.
Yeah.
So you can just amuse yourselves. No, I'm just kidding.
Let me see a show of hands of who wants a rig rundown from my pedal board. 1, 2, 7. Other people are like, no, we don't. Let me see a show of hands who doesn't want a rig rundown. Okay. Well, there's much more for than against. So, all right.
I was just being devil's advocate.
Here we go. I'll kind of do for you guys what I did for Joe. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pedals up here. My main pedal is an amp pedal. So I run this Super Black Magic Reverb, kind of clean sounding. I don't bother with the distortion on it because in Joe's band, at least, I have to have a really, for can't get what you want and stuff like that. Right? You gotta have the clean sound. So then I need an amp pedal, and that's Creation Audio Labs Holy Fire. It's like not too distorted. It sounds like kind of a cranked amp kind of vibe. Very dynamic. You can still get clean sounds out of it if you play soft. Then I got this Tumnus pedal by Wampler, which I kind of use it's like a clone, but I use it as like a harmonic pusher kind of pedal, and I don't really use it without the Holy Fire. So that's what it does. It's kind of not super distorted either. But together, you get much more. That's just the Holy Fire. Then I got a Keeley Germanium Oxblood. For those of you who aren't guitar players, I'm really sorry. That's my main kind of lead distortion kind of sound. And I hardly ever use that without the Holy Fire on. Without the Holy Fire, it sounds like that. So I'm really pushing the Holy Fire with the Keeley. When I turn off the Holy Fire, the Keeley's really loud. So that tells you that the Holy Fire is pushing the Keeley down, which makes the Holy Fire distort more. And then I got a compressor pedal, which is a Keeley Compressor Plus. Just for length, sustain. Have a bite, right?
That pedal board that you're doing that all on, that all stores the combination of all of these effects?
It does do that, and it's also right now when the red lights are on, it's just turning them on and off.
And what is that?
That's a
Who
Boss ES8.
Oh, I see.
Yes, it's like a true bypass looper with programmability, and it sends out MIDI stuff too. So then what else we got here? We got this is a JHS Muffaletta, Big Muff clone. With the Holy Fire. I always like a Big Muff with the neck pickup on and the tone rolled off. I think that's kind of I don't know why. It sounded good to me. And then the last little thing I have here is the thing I showed you before with that we do on Alchemy, the solo part with the ricochet and all the stuff. They're all in one loop. That's the freak out. So I put, instead of, you know what the freak out is? It's a Digitech pedal that they used. They made it to make feedback. So if you can tune the feedback, and most people will go, oh yeah, I like feedback at a low volume, right? And put the note at like a fifth or something, or an octave, and you'll be like, yeah, it sounds like you're getting feedback at a really low volume. But for that Joe song, and I need to just get some sustain, I just tune it to the same note as I'm playing. So it's kind of like a synthesizer that lengthens the note. You can really go out and have a bite with that one. I beat you to it. I beat you to it.
What about the H9? Isn't that an H9?
The H9 is the Eventide pedal. Let's see here. So Eventide's known for their amazing reverbs, right? And the H9 does not disappoint. We used to do a version of Steppin' Out, Joe's song, where he wanted me to sound like an orchestra. So I came up with this. Oh, yeah. Strangeland, let's see. And the only other pedal I have up here is the M9, which is kind of like, for me, a utility pedal. I use it for mostly just delay. And I have a wah volume pedal. I like not having too many pedals to dance around on, so. Strangeland. Joe's got a song called Strangeland, and at the end of the song, I came up with this little loop to do in there. I program it fresh every sound check. Play that in the gig. It's an extra bonus, extra chord there at the end.
I like the bonus chord.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can program any of those things to go together and create a palette for a touring gig like that, where you can easily switch between things and not have to remember any patch numbers. It's pretty fun.
I have to say, as an observer, because we get to see Teddy build this for the tour, and this has been for the past couple of years. It's not just the vastness of the soundscape, but then, in Joe's case, there's a lot of volume control things where Joe is very specific about volume. So Teddy's programming, it goes far beyond figuring out the pedals in this custom board which he built, but then the subtlety of these volume changes they're infinitely more complex than it would seem when you see the show. But then it seems effortless. He's mastered this way of figuring it out. But it's probably unique in a way to Joe. Like maybe with somebody else, it would be a different build, and of course you'd build, what pedal rig would be different and how you would approach that volume.
Yeah, I would change out pedals. Like there's a couple of little chains there that I wouldn't use with anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But through the rehearsal process, you could see Teddy doing that. You could see him thinking about it and show up the next day, and something would be switched, and now something is working, something else in a different order, and how that's going to affect what Joe hears. And then the guitar choices, too, were quite a lot. Teddy was getting quite a lot of guitars sent to rehearsals to figure out what was going to work. What was the combination between what Joe wanted to hear, what was comfortable for Teddy, and needing at least two, one as a backup. And how did you settle on the gold one? Well, what made it special, Teddy?
Because of Big Black Cloud, I have to use a guitar with a Strat whammy bar.
Wow.
Okay, let's play Big
okay.
Black Cloud is a crazy.
One song.
Yes.
Made the difference.
So this song starts like this. My whammy, I'm holding the guitar and pushing the whammy bar all the way down to the bottom of the guitar, as far as it can go.
One, two, ready to go. Shout it out, shout it out, shout it out. No luck, no money, no sex, no fun. Get on the treadmill, run, 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 run.
There you go. The chorus sound for that and the verse sound are the same sound, except I turned the verse sound way, way down so you can hear Joe singing. He just wanted like a sheen of an undercurrent of danger. So, right. And he kept telling me to turn up the chorus part, right?
Yeah.
It's probably like the heaviest
Yes.
sound that you use.
And that song has Tampa Bay in it, by the way.
Oh, that's right, it does. Wow. I guess we got to do it tonight, right? Probably. It's called Big Black Cloud. I think is it the first song on the album? Yes. Yeah. First song on the album.
We don't listen to albums. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm using a True Tone CS12 to power the whole board because it powers the M9. That's the only reason to do that. And I'm using a Q connectivity MIDI thing to translate the iPad out into MIDI to go into the rig to change all the patches. And I'm using a, I don't know what the hell that thing is. It's an AirTurn Duo Bluetooth pedal that just changes the song to the next, goes to the next song in the set in the iPad. So I can. Yeah. Any rig questions? No? Oh, yeah. Have a backups of everything.
I'm curious why you picked the instruments. Like Doug's name, why did you pick the drums? Why did you pick
Ah.
the bass?
I didn't choose the bass chose me. Well, you ask, go ahead, you start.
We had a music room in the house, so I had, older brothers and sisters, and there were drums there, and I loved the idea of sitting down and playing, but my dad was a jazz musician, and I was always listening to things like, Charlie Parker and Hubert Laws and all these great people, and my dad being a sax player, I loved saxophone, and I was trying to get melody out of drums. I didn't know. I was 3, and that was 2 years ago. And I tried, and I was really thinking about like the beauty of sound, I think. So it took me a while to understand the opposite, what it means to make something feel good. But ultimately, it became this insatiable, inseparable relationship that I just couldn't get enough of. To this day, I mean, if we have a day off, I think I'd rather play. Not that I don't love seeing places or hanging out, but I love playing. So for me, it was the perfect relationship. It just worked out.
My family also had all kinds of instruments in the house, and my mother was an incredible classical pianist and church organist. And I think my father showed me all the ukulele chords when I was a kid. And within like a couple of weeks, probably I was better than him. And also my mother was so good that I was really intimidated. Like watching her play was just like, how? I'm never going to be able to do that. That's crazy. But guitar could just kind of, yeah. I played all kinds of instruments in high school, like saxophone and trombone and drums and bass and all kinds of stuff, and just trying to participate and try different things, experiment, but guitar stuck. I don't know why.
Okay, well, and for me, I started playing when I was 16, so I got a Yamaha acoustic guitar because I passed my school exams, And after about a year, I had a friend. I'm living in England at the time, that's where I grew up. And this friend came, and we were trying to start a band, and he said, I know this bloke who's selling 2 guitars. One's an electric, and the other's a bass. 15 quid each. A quid is a pound. 15 quid each, he said. I want to buy the electric guitar. Do you want to buy the bass? I'd never thought of it before. It never occurred to me. But as soon as he said that, I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do, yeah. I never touched a bass before, but just... And then, so that's what happened. So I was 17 years old. And...
You had passion for it even before you paid the 15 quid.
yeah, right, because I'd been, I was like a Beatles fan in the 60s,
Right,
so I'm watching Paul McCartney playing that Hofner violin-shaped bass and thinking, oh, that's what makes that sound, So I was definitely ready, And then by the time I was 17, I was listening to, Jimi Hendrix and Cream and... Deep Purple and bands like that, where they had great bass players. So I was definitely ready to do that. Now I'm going to digress because I remember we talked about this earlier on. Somebody had asked about. I have a story about Joe Jackson and the guitar, since this is a guitar shop. So when I first met Joe, as I was saying earlier, he was very young. When I first met him, he was always a keyboard player, but he also played the violin when I first met him. and he was going to music school. He was a percussion major, so he actually learned vibes. And later on, as the years went by, he taught himself how to play alto sax. So he's a very musical guy. He can turn his hand to everything. The only instrument that he has no natural ability or affinity with whatsoever is the guitar. I've seen him pick a guitar up, and he's just, something happens to him. He just doesn't even know how to hold it, or it just looks completely unnatural. So anyway, so we did this one tour back in the 90s where there was no guitar player in the band. So it was a percussionist and me and a girl playing violin and keyboards and Joe. And Joe wanted to do this rockin' song from one of our early albums called I'm the Man. And I said, well, there's no way we can do that song without the guitar. You just can't do it. And he said, well, you could play the guitar. I said, well, who's going to play bass? You can't. I said, it's just not going to work. So we came up with this idea between Joe and I that he was going to play my Strat, and I tuned it to a chord. Because it's a very simple song. It's like 3 chords or something. And all he had to do was bar he just had to bar it like like that, I made it as easy for him as possible. So he actually would come out on the stage with a little combo amp, even smaller than the Supro, and he'd plug the Strat in through a distortion pedal. And it was terrible, but people went bonkers. People just loved the fact that he would do that. And I just remember watching him every night. He just looked like, he just looked so wrong with the guitar in his hands. And yet somehow we pulled that song off every night, and people loved it. So anyway, I thought it was a good story. That's the only time I ever saw him play the guitar was on that tour. Probably never be repeated.
I love all those early songs that we play, and anytime there's some kind of guitar solo, I mean, guitar solo, it's like not really a guitar solo. I'll do the thing, and he starts moaning that there's a guitar solo, like faking that, like, oh no, it's so terrible, guitar. Ugh. Pretty funny.
I don't know where that's coming from, really.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's part of the act.
It's part of the act, right?
Yeah. So what else did you listen to?
More questions. What else did I listen to?
Yeah. What kind of other music did you listen to when you were young?
Oh man, it was pretty diverse because with everybody having a different interest, there was.
You have like 17 kids in your family?
Yeah.
Exactly 17?
No, there were 6 of us. But you had all the influences. Like somebody was into R&B, somebody was, my sister was a conga player, so there were tons of Latin music. Someone else was into Joni Mitchell. Someone else into Elton John. It was like all these different diverse things. And I think that comes out with Joe. His taste is so eclectic.
Yeah.
You could be on the back of the bus after the gig, and he might have music from the 20s playing. And he really knows it. It's not like, oh, yeah, this sounds cool. He knows it. He knows music from South America. He knows music. Mm-hmm. And unique I always say for Graham is that stylistically, Graham, I meet, people or know musicians. I know a friend of mine, Mark Platty. He was played bass and guitar, and at one time was the musical director for David Bowie. And when he found out I got the gig with Joe Jackson, he said, I got to meet Graham Maby. That's the reason I started playing music. That's the influence. And in Joe's case, because his taste is so diverse, I think that is what made you be able to play all these different things,
Right, I was telling Steve earlier on about when we did the Jump and Jive album and how he kind of threw that at me. And I didn't really know that music at all. So now all of a sudden I got to play these crazy walking bass lines.
Yeah.
That I totally faked my way through it. But it came out pretty good.
Yeah, he definitely expands his musicians.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, it's really just a question of listening to more different kinds of music, opening your mind, and that gets easier as you get older, I think. Just you realize good music is good music, whether you can understand the lyrics or not, or even if there's no lyrics, preferably.
Yeah.
Anybody? Any questions?
Any questions? Anybody have any questions?
feel free. He tailors the arrangements. Joe tailors the arrangements to the lineup. Right. That's one of his skills, I think, is knowing. Yeah, like he has a very clear idea of what we can do. The only thing he's not sure about, as Teddy said earlier, is exactly what the guitar can do. So Teddy's constantly like opening Joe's mind to, oh, we could do that, right? So.
Yes, all the time. There's little things like little horn parts that I have to play throughout the show. And he also has a weird thing about, I was kind of, like in the beginning of playing with him, I was like, that's odd, why does he want that? But he wants the guitar to sustain really, really as long as it can sustain. He wants it to basically to be a synth sometimes, like in Big Black Cloud, right? Or My House. How the hell does that go?
Oh, right.
You know, I had to learn how to play that without leaving any space between the chords. It's kind of hard on guitar, like.
Because that was a piano line.
Yes.
Right.
Also, Big Black Cloud at the end. There's that part that goes. Yeah, it's very simple, but it's hard to do because you can't lift your hands up at all. You know, you're. The other thing he wanted on that was don't play the same voicings all the time. Just like mix it up, make it interesting. So you know, there's not a lot to work with there to make it interesting. So you really have to got to know your triads. That's what I'm saying, kids.
But I would say your job is the hardest.
Mine?
Yeah.
No.
I think so.
Your job is the hardest.
No, because coming into the rehearsals, right, Greg? Because
That's the easiest, I know that.
Because he had to cover so much ground. Sometimes you're covering the horn part. Sometimes you have to be the synth guy. It's a volume thing. It's a sound thing. There's so much that went on in the guitar chair, I thought.
Let's agree to disagree and say that both our jobs are equally difficult. Because Doug's running on the laptop with Ableton on the gig with all kinds of stuff going on. It's insane. I don't know how you remember all that.
For me, the hardest part is if they don't have stairs going to the drum riser. That's always a drag. But we chipped in and got a trampoline.
Nice. Questions?
That guy had a question.
Yeah, I know you said you were a cover band way back when.
Back in the 70s, yes.
How does Joe figure in with that? I know that you do a cover of Rain by the Beatles. Is he
Oh, well.
receptive about doing cover songs? Or?
You know, there'll usually be one cover song in the set, usually, you know, and it'll be a different one. We've done pretty wide range of cover songs over the years, from Frank Zappa to ABBA, I think. That's A to Z. What do you
About as
know?
wide as it gets.
Yeah, right. We used to do Dirty Love. Yeah. My favorite part was at the end when Dave, the drummer, and I would have to sing, "The poodle bites, the poodle chews it." Yeah, I know. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of strange. But yeah, I mean, so it was an interesting.
So they just kind of drop it in on you and say, okay, we're going to do this.
Right. Well, we're doing the Beatles song "Rain" because it ties in with the album "Rain." So we do a track from. So the premise of the tour it's the 4-decade tour. So we're doing something from each, because the first album came out 40 years ago. So something from each decade. So the album from the 2000s is "Rain." So we do a couple of songs from "Rain," and we do. You know, he says, "Here's the title track that never was." So that's the reason for that. But yeah, there's usually an interesting cover tune. What did we do?
Peter Gunn.
Oh, right. And we're doing a Steely Dan song as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did Night by Night by Steely Dan.
Now we're doing King of the World.
Yeah. What else have we done?
ABBA.
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 Oh, we did Scary Monsters, David Bowie.
Yeah.
Knowing Me, Knowing You, we did, right?
Yeah.
Knowing Me, Knowing
Yeah,
You.
right.
With a Pompey accent.
Yeah, we've done like I said, it's pretty up for grabs. Yeah, over the years we've done a few Steely Dan songs. We've done a couple of Bowie tunes. Yeah, you know.
But not necessarily the way you think. You think you're going to get the track and you're going to learn it, and that's the way it's going to be. But for King of the World, he actually wanted something very different than what we heard on the record. He sent me two things. I think it was something from Big Audio Dynamite and something else. He said, "I want you to combine these two things," which I did, and then got to rehearsal, and he's, "No!" Because it didn't feel right. Not that I didn't do it right, but it just, the frustration was, "No, Jesus, that's not that I had a concept, but it's not working, it's not working, it's not working." And then Teddy and I just kept playing until something happened.
We should play that. Let's
Yeah.
play that.
And also, Joe was like you guys know that song, King of the World by Steely Dan? It's sort of like there's a lot of guitar playing all over the place. Walter's just going bananas over the whole singing part. And then there's a synth thing in the middle, and Joe just said to me, "Yeah, I want you to play it like Shaft." I was like, okay, let's try it.
Okay.
So it's going to be without the vocals, but
Right, the piano and vocals are kind of the whole song, so it's just going to sound like Shaft. So maybe you can come in earlier than you usually do. Yeah.
With the double stops.
Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1.
Oh, the other part, right?
Anyway, it was crazy. You know, the idea that what he wanted from Teddy and I was so wild. And then Graham played the funkiest bass line that kept evolving, getting funkier every night, it seemed.
Well, it's because I was listening to your bass drum pattern.
I get the feeling that these guys like each other a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
Any other questions?
I like you, Graham.
Just one bass. Back then, I was playing an Ibanez 4-string, and strung with those black flat wounds. I was using Rotosound black flat wounds, black nylon flat wounds, with the treble cranked up, and I was using a pick. So a lot of those songs I was using a pick, but for songs like Fools in Love, obviously that's just the fingers, so it was a different, just the tone, the treble was rolled back. So that's all, but yeah, same Fender Bassman 135 rig, one of the best rigs I ever had. Yeah, I only owned one bass when we recorded Look Sharp, that was it.
Oh yeah, you had to get another one, right? Why was that?
Oh, well, then we went on tour in 1979, and I remember we were in Detroit, and at the end of the show, like in the last song, I broke a string. And so, yeah, so it was like the D or something, so I had to get through the song, like, trying to get around this broken string, And I walked off stage, and I said to Joe's manager, I said, I think I should have a backup instrument. And he said, whoa, I think we can arrange that.
That's the best story
Yeah, it's like
ever.
none of us even thought about that. Like, what would happen if you broke a string? Like, we were so green, So, funny.
Yeah, Joe was like 24, right, when that came out?
Yeah, he was 24 years old, yeah. 24, and I was 26. Kids.
Who knew?
Yeah, we didn't know any better, Yes. Oh, sorry.
Hey, Graham, are there a couple bass players who sort of set the template in your mind when you started playing in terms of the tone or kind of the lines that they were playing that you gravitated to and that you still maybe kind of have in your head?
Well, there were a few guys that were turning the treble up a little bit, like obviously like Chris Squire, people like that. And then I really loved Jack Bruce because he was like a jazz player, so he's like all over the place. I like the fact that you weren't limited, But then again, I like as I've gotten older, I really appreciate like guys that just know how to groove, like Duck Dunn, people like that just. They know, they leave a lot of space, they do what they do, they're not flashy. But when you're 17, 18 years old, yeah, I was listening to, Paul McCartney was one of the very first ones because he was, he was so clever melodically, like he was playing the song, but he was adding so much to it. And then I read, there's a great book called Here, There, and Everywhere by Jeff Emmerich, who was their engineer. And he talks about how Paul would be the one that would stay late when everybody else had gone home, and he'd be working on the bass lines from like Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, from that point on. And that, when you listen to it knowing that, you could like, oh yeah, he's really worked hard on that. He's figured that out, So, but that's the kind of thing, So I didn't want to just be in a supporting role. That's true. So I guess Joe identified that fairly early on. So
Did you have a question, Karen?
Can you talk about how technology has changed your evolution in music? Because the pedals and the looper weren't around early on, were they? And how did you guys evolve?
I don't know when the 16-second delay by Electro-Harmonix came out, but that's the first time I saw that happen with Jocko doing it in a Shadows and Light tour with Joni Mitchell. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. And I think the first looper pedal I had was early 80s, like a Digitech something 8000 pedal that you could kind of make loops and mangle them and do weird things with them. So that technology has been around for a while. Also, Les Paul was doing it on tape loops where he'd wrap a tape around a pole or something and let it just keep playing. So
right, and the Beatles did that too.
the Beatles did it too, right? So I'm not the first one.
Maybe it got a little easier over the years.
It's definitely easier now, yes. Which doesn't necessarily make it better, because now everybody can do it.
Not like you.
Well, thank you. One thing I was going to say about the Lupustra is I get to play with a lot of really amazing bass players and drummers in the Lupustra over the years, and these two guys are two of my favorite Lupustra candidates of all time, and I'm so thrilled and lucky that I get to do anything with them. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Teddy. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh?
Learning to play bass with a pick, or is that just a style that Joe did on the first album and you requested?
So my dark secret is I started using a pick because I'm not very fast with my fingers. And some of those early songs were like, there's no way I can play that with my fingers. So I thought, well, I'll just use a pick, you know. And then I got pretty good with the pick. Watching old footage, I'm like playing all those eighth notes, like I don't even know how I did it, because I can't do it now.
Yeah, I mean, got the time, the intro, right? It's like
Oh my God, yeah. Well, but that's back and forth. That's
shredding, though.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of, yeah.
That's
it's kind of
early bass
crazy.
shredding.
But it was really a function of my limitations, you know, as a bass player. I'm just not that fast, you know. There are some people like Jacko. Do you ever hear Jacko do Wipeout? Da-da-da-da-da. It's like ridiculous, you know. I mean, it's like beyond human ability or something, you know. There's a bass player I really like called Joe Dart, what's that band he's in?
Oh, yeah.
The
Is that,
Wolfpack, right. Yeah, he's like that. He's just like got such a facility with his fingers, like really good. So that's where the pick comes from. But you know, and I've had sort of snobby people say to me, "Well, real bass players don't use a pick," and I'm like, "Have you ever heard of Paul McCartney?" You know. So
Hey-o.
yeah, right. So.
Yeah.
People say that to me, I just go Grand Maby and I just
Well, thank you very much.
We don't have much time left. Any last-minute questions again?
One more. Getting back to the logistics of running a modern show compared to the old days.
Yeah.
So, do each of you have one standby instrument at least standing by, and do you have an individual that's responsible for putting
Yes.
that out to you? And then, when you whammy so hard, do you just have to change guitars because it's out of tune, or you have locking disposals? Or?
That's a good question, because I asked him that question too, but no.
Victor Munoz. That's the only answer to that. A lot of grease over here. You know, a lot of standing and filing.
He's our stage tech. So he
Victor
takes care of
is
everything.
unbelievable.
Yeah, because Joe has a fairly sophisticated, relatively, setup as well. So
Victor is in charge of.
Victor takes care of all of that. It's a lot of stuff, because there's two of everything, right?
2 laptops to run.
There's another Doug
sequence.
as well.
There's 2, yeah.
I'm not kidding, he is an identical twin brother.
Yeah. But there is 2 of everything. Teddy would have 2 iPads, right?
Right.
To do it?
No, I don't have a backup of that.
You don't?
Teddy, just say yes. But Joe, but Joe has, you know, Joe has 2 iPads. Joe has 2 multiples of the same keyboard. It has to be. You just can't tell when something is gonna happen, and stuff happens. You know, it just happens.
It's evolved so much. I remember the clip of the Beatles playing the DC Coliseum where they came on stage and they were actually positioning Ringo's.
Right, Ringo
set.
would pick his drums up and turn them, because they were facing in different
They were
directions.
doing all the work,
Right.
and then they would play,
Right.
and it's kind of evolved a bit.
Crazy. And look at the sound system they had, too.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Anybody else?
Have you ever considered using a modeler like a fractal or a helix?
Yeah, I have 2 helix thingies, and I like them, but I don't like the amp modeling part of anything, really. I don't know why. I hear other people using it, and it just sounds strange to me. But that's me. It probably sounds great in certain situations. Also, I have a relationship with the amp. I feel like there's electrons moving and stuff is going on that if I use a modeler, that doesn't happen, right? Like for feedback and stuff like that. Yeah. You know, to each his own. Adrian Belew is one of my favorite guitar players, and he's all about amp modeling and digital everything, so. Yeah. Also, John McLaughlin, right? Doesn't he use modeling? Yeah, I mean, you know, you can get a good sound out of them. I was not saying that they're not good, but, you know, it's just personal preference. All right. Well,
Well, this was fun.
this was really fun, you guys. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
And thank you so much to Chad and Kent and Kyle and everybody else here. Replay is an amazing store. I've never been here before, and I'm definitely going to come back. What was the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, this Super amp I'm using, if I just plug it into it straight. If I can.
Okay.
I wish I could do this on Joe's gig. It's a beast. It's got a master volume. I like it.
Sounds great. And that's just clean. Wow.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.